Title: Whispers in the Shadows. The wind rustled through the narrow alleyways of the small town just as twilight began to pour, golden light over rusted rooftops. In the midst of the fading sun and rising shadows, T. Dipe felt a chill crawl down her spine, a feeling she hadn't shaken for days. Someone was watching her. At first, she had brushed it off as paranoia. The shifting reflections in the windows, the echoes of footsteps that didn't match her own, the motorbike that passed by, too often to be coincidence. But today, it was different. Today, she was certain. She clutched her small woven bag tighter against her side and quickened her steps down the market path. The air was thick with the scent of fresh herbs and grilled corn, but all she could focus on was the figure lurking near the edge of the street, a man in a faded cap, pretending to buy oranges, but glancing her way one too many times. What scared her most wasn't just that she was being followed. It was the creeping realization that this wasn't random. Meanwhile, at a high-rise office overlooking the city, James stood with his back to the skyline. His fingers tightened around the edge of his desk as he read the message Toon had just sent him. There's been unusual activity around T. Dipe. Someone might be tailing her. Possible connection to John and Tung. Want me to act? James's heart dropped. John again. The name tasted like iron and betrayal in his mouth. He slammed his laptop shut and grabbed his coat. No, he told Toon through gritted teeth, dialing his number. Don't do anything yet. I'm going to her myself. Back on the street, T. Dipe's pace turned into a near run as she slipped into a side alley behind the noodle shop. Her heart pounded against her ribs like a drumbeat of panic. She pulled out her phone, her fingers trembling. She didn't know who else to trust. James. She hesitated, then pressed call. Pick up, she whispered, tears beginning to prick the corners of her eyes. Just as her voice cracked into the receiver, James's car screeched to a stop beside her. He jumped out, eyes wild, scanning the street. T. Dipe, he shouted. She turned, relief and fear crashing over her like a wave. She ran into his arms, trembling. I think someone's following me, she whispered, and I think it's because of you and John. James pulled her closer, shielding her with his body as if his love alone could stop a bullet. I know, he said quietly. I was afraid of this, and I swear to you, no matter what John or Tung is planning, I won't let them touch you. His voice was low, fierce, and filled with a storm he had kept buried for too long. Because now it wasn't just about revenge or business. Now, it was about protecting a woman he couldn't afford to lose. T. Dipe didn't remember how long she stood there in James's arms, her breath hitching against his chest, the sound of his heartbeat grounding her in the chaos swirling around them. She had always known James lived in a different world, one of ruthless boardrooms, power plays, and shadows too dark to name, but she never imagined those shadows would one day reach for her. I should have told you sooner, James murmured into her hair. His voice, usually calm and composed, now trembled with something more fragile, guilt. There were signs. I just didn't want to believe John would go this far. She pulled back, her eyes searching his. You think it's him? Bet he's behind this. James nodded, jaw clenched. Him, and possibly Tung. They're working together now, trying to corner me through the people I love. His voice caught, and T. Dipe felt her chest tighten. You should have told me, she said quietly, a touch of hurt in her voice. I had a right to know. I didn't want to scare you. He looked down, ashamed. But I see now. Keeping you in the dark only made things worse. There was a moment of silence between them, heavy with unspoken fears. The hum of the distant street, the sound of a passing cart, the flicker of a neon sign nearby, they all felt strangely distant, as if the world had slowed down just for them. Then James took a step back and reached into his coat, pulling out a small black device. A tracker, he said. You'll carry this with you from now on. And I'll have to have my men watch over you quietly, discreetly, no arguments. T-Dipe hesitated, then nodded. I'm not just protecting you because I'm scared of losing you, James added. I'm protecting you because I've never cared for someone like this before. You've given me something real, Dipe. Something none of this money or power ever gave me. She looked at him, eyes softening. Then don't fight this alone anymore. Whatever is coming, we face it together. Far away, in a dimly lit warehouse, John leaned against a table, arms crossed, watching a monitor flicker with grainy footage. T-Dipe's face appeared on the screen, frightened, vulnerable. A twisted smirk played on his lips. She's the key, he said to Tung, who stood silently in the corner. Break James's heart, and you break the man. Tung didn't answer, but his eyes were cold, calculating. He had his own reasons for following through with this plan, and they weren't all about James. Back in James's penthouse, the city lights blinked beyond the glass windows. T-Dipe sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, sipping ginger tea. James stood by the window, one hand in his pocket, the other running through his hair. He hadn't said a word in over 10 minutes. What are you thinking? She asked gently. I'm thinking, he said, still staring into the night, that if John wants a war, I'll give him one, but not at the cost of you. He turned to face her, eyes burning with a resolve that made her heart skip. From this moment on, I will end this, not just for my company, not just for revenge, but for you. And for the first time that evening, T-Dipe smiled, tired, but full of trust. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but with James by her side, and love as their shield, they were ready for whatever storm waited beyond the shadows. Confrontation with John. Tone, tense, dangerous, emotionally charged. Purpose, push James and John into direct conflict and raise the stakes. Sample teaser. The private rooftop was quiet to quiet. James stood alone under the hazy moonlight, the city a blur behind him. Then footsteps. John emerged from the shadows, a faint smile playing on his lips. You look tired, James, he said. The girl must be keeping you up at night. James's jaw tightened. Leave her out of this. John chuckled darkly. I would, if she weren't your greatest weakness. This direction sets the stage for mind games, threats, and moral boundaries being tested. Deeper secret about Tung's motivation. Tone, emotional, mysterious, layered. Purpose, add complexity to the antagonist's side, possibly making Tung a gray character. Sample teaser. Tung stared at the faded photo in his hand. To boys playing near a rice field, smiling without a care in the world. One was him, the other was James. He forgot where he came from, Tung murmured, voice thick with bitterness. But I never did. Behind him, John watched silently. You sure you're doing this for revenge, or because you still wish you were him? This direction adds emotional weight, reveals shared history, and possibly sets up a redemption arc or betrayal twist. Scene, shadows in the truth. The flickering light of the police station buzzed overhead, casting long shadows on the cold tile floor. James sat across from Detective Lamb, his fists clenched, jaw tight, eyes dark with fury and fear. She's being followed, James said, his voice low but steady. I don't know who he is yet, but I know who might be behind it. Detective Lamb leaned forward, pen tapping against the notepad. You think it's John? A bitter smile tugged at James's lips. If it's not John, it's someone he hired. And Tung. I wouldn't put it past him. The detective nodded slowly. We've reviewed the CCTV footage near T-Dipe's neighborhood. A man in a black hoodie appeared twice, same time, same street, same direction. He never approached her, but he was watching, waiting. James's stomach twisted, the image of T-Dipe smiling, carefree, completely unaware of the shadow trailing behind her haunted him. I want protection on her. Quiet, Unseen. I'll cover the costs if I have to, James said, rising from his seat. But she can't know. If she finds out, she'll worry, and she'll blame herself. Detective Lamb looked up, curious. And what will you do? James turned, his silhouette sharp against the doorway. His voice was calm, but steel-edged every word. I'm going to find out who he is, and then I'll find John. I've played defense long enough. Outside, the night waited still, dangerous, and full of secrets. Seen, beneath the surface, 2 days later, the air in the city turned heavier, thick with rain, and something unspoken. James leaned against his car, eyes locked on the building across the street. Inside was a narrow apartment complex, where the mysterious man in the black hoodie had disappeared the night before. Detective Lamb stepped beside him, holding a thin folder. We got a name, Lamb said quietly. Nguyen Van Tin, 27. No formal job. Criminal record for petty theft, but nothing major. But here's the twist: he once worked as a delivery driver for a shell company owned by John's cousin. James took the file, flipping through the pages. The deeper he read, the tighter his chest became. Tin had vanished off the grid for months ago. Then suddenly, he reappeared near T. Dipe's house. He's a ghost, James muttered. Planted. Watching. Reporting. Lamb nodded grimly. You were right to suspect it wasn't random. That night, James couldn't sleep. He stood by the window of his penthouse apartment, overlooking the city lights, but his mind was elsewhere. He saw T. Dipe's gentle eyes, the way she touched his hand when he was overwhelmed, the quiet way she gave him strength. James stared at the screen, his reflection cold and distant in the glass. It wasn't just a warning, it was war. Life lesson, trust, courage, and the price of love. In a world filled with ambition, secrets, and betrayal, the most powerful armor we can wear is trust in ourselves and in those we choose to love. James could have turned away, chosen safety, and let fear take the lead. But he didn't. He stood by T. Dipe, even when shadows threatened to swallow everything they had built. That is true courage, not the absence of fear, but the choice to protect what matters most, even in the face of danger. T. Dipe, too, showed strength not through force, but through kindness, compassion, and quiet resilience. She didn't need to fight with fists. Her love and loyalty became her shield. This story teaches us that love requires risk, but the right people are worth it. Trust must be protected, because once broken, it's hard to rebuild. Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's the whisper that says, I'll try again tomorrow, and truth will always surface, no matter how deep it's buried. So when life tests you, when the world grows silent, and you feel watched, threatened, or alone, remember this: you are stronger than fear, and when love stands beside you, you're never truly in the dark.